Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. This is week number 35, and I should remind you to have pencil and paper handy if possible, so maybe while you're listening now you can reach over for some pencil and paper just in case you need to jot some things down. I bring this up often because sometimes I cite things that people need to remember and they forget their pencil and paper. So today what will be helpful for us is to think about all of the wonderful friends that God has had in history. The friends we've heard about, like Noah was obviously a great friend of God, and Moses for sure, and Abraham obviously was the father of faith, and he was a very close friend of God. Abraham was the model of faith for us. And then there was Daniel the prophet, and all the other many prophets, numerous for me to name for you here today, but like Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah. And then certainly a good friend of God, King David. A lot of the prophecies for the Messiah were given to us during the time of King David, and King David and Solomon created many of the Psalms for us, which people sung in those days, the Psalms, 150 Psalms actually. And then some friends in the last 2,000 years have had 10,000 saints actually canonized and reported on, so you can read the lives of the saints of the last 2,000 years by just Googling any name you want. Just put the word saint in front of it, so you can Google St. Anthony, St. Francis, St. John, St. Teresa, St. Catherine, St. Robin, St. Mary, certainly Joan of Arc, etc. So there's been 10,000 saints. They were all friends of God. And as you read the lives of the saints and read about the people in the Bible that were friends of God, you'll notice that they talked to God all during the day, every day. They considered God in everything they were doing. Maybe everything is too extreme, but almost everything they were doing. It seems like they walked and talked with God constantly all day long. It certainly seems that way. And as we consider that, we are supposed to be like that too. We're supposed to be friends of God. And if we're friends of God and He's invisible and He's present to us all day long, I mean, it's not like we call God once a month and go bowling with Him, or we call Him once a month and we go hiking with Him. God is always with us, so we're bowling and hiking and working and talking and getting married and having children and raising children and doing our jobs all day long with him. It's like when we're working, God is with us. So where you might call God once a month and go bowling, you really need to call God once a day and go to work with him, and call God once a day and have dinner with him and your spouse and your children, etc. God is with us all the time, and so we should look at it like we're doing things with him. If we're not doing things with him, then we're ignoring him. So that's why I bring this all up. And if we get this attitude in our life that we're doing things with God and for God and by God and because of God, we have a wonderful, marvelous life. We start noticing miracles popping up all over the place. And so I share my events in my life. I try to talk to you about my events in my life so that you'll notice God in the events of your life. For example, we should notice him as we're working, as we're shopping, as we're driving our car, as we're watching TV, as we're having dinner with our family, as we're dreaming as while we sleep. We should notice God in all the things we're doing, and it helps to say, God, please help me. If we could develop the habit of always saying, always throughout our day, constantly, please help me with this project, please help me with this, please inspire me as we begin each new task. If we do that, we'll be aware of God and we'll notice miracles constantly. So I'm about to share one miracle with you where God was present in my day. I was having a gloomy day. It was a gloomy, rainy day, so that makes me a little gloomy. It was rainy off and on and damp. But I was not achieving the things I planned to do. I planned to do things a week ago for this particular day, and it was not going well. Things were not being done as smoothly as I thought, and I wasn't getting things done. So I was frustrated, and I had planned to take a break during this week. I had planned on this day I was going to take a break and go to my favorite park and walk around and exercise and get my exercise squeezed in, but have conversations with God. And so I planned to do that, but it was rainy and gloomy, and I was thinking, well, I'm not even going to get my time with God, walking with him and talking as my best friend. But God inspired me to stop what I was doing and go take my walk. And so that was a little disturbing to me because I knew it was raining, and if I drove over to the park, it's about 10 minutes away. I would get there and I wouldn't be able to walk, and so I was getting frustrated with that. But amazingly, I was inspired by God to trust him and stop what I was doing and go off to my car and drive over to the park. So, okay, it was raining. I got dressed for my walk. I went out to the car. It was raining. I got into the car and drove over to the park, and I'm thinking, boy, I'm really trusting God. This is going to be a miracle. And sure enough, when I pulled into the park, unbelievably, it stopped raining. Now, how's that for a miracle? He told me to go, and I did go, and when I got there, it stopped raining. And as I parked my car in the park, it rained all the way up to that moment. So it took me to have faith, and I believe these old stories now. If you have faith, you can move mountains, and if you have no doubt that God will bless you. And sure enough, he certainly did in this particular case. God told me to trust him and to go. So I drove over for the 10 minutes, and I got out of the car. I walked for 30 minutes. I was exercising. I was talking to God. I was planning things for my future. And I had budgeted 30 minutes to walk. So at the end of the 30 minutes, I was so impressed and so amazed. I got hit with one drop of water. I looked at my watch. It was 30 minutes. I got hit with 2 more drops of water. I got to my car before it started coming down. But I got to tell you, I got into my car and it started raining again. So this was totally miraculous for me because I'm not kidding. The rain had stopped when I got there. I walked my 30 minutes, and it started as I got into my car. Actually, I got hit with a couple of drops before I got to my car as a reminder it was time to go. And I had a big smile on my face as I drove back home because it was raining all the way back home. And I pulled into my driveway, and it was time to get out of my car, and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to get wet on the way in. Well, I didn't because it stopped raining when I got to my parking spot at home, and just before I got out of my car, the rain stopped, and I got into the house, it started raining again. Now, you may not believe this story, but I hope you do because it's true, And that's how I know God is with me, and that's how I know God is my friend, because he does things like this for the last 50 years. He's been doing things like this with me for 50 years. Perfect timing. He inspires me to do things, and that's what the word inspired means, right? The word inspired is 2 words. It means the inflow, the incoming of the Spirit. That's what it means. So he inspires us. An idea also is 2 words. It's I and Deo, and Deo is the Latin word for God. And so when we get an idea, an ideo, we are getting an inspiration. So the next time you get an idea and you think you're so smart, like sometimes we all do, we get an idea and we say, wow, I'm really bright. Well, maybe you should tell yourself, as I do, when I get an idea and I think I'm bright, I realize the word idea is I and Deo, and it's not me that's so bright, it's my best friend who's talking to me, making me bright for the moment. So I hope you enjoyed that story, but that was one. My next story about miracles is one day I was inspired by God to go to Niantic Seaport in Connecticut. There's a famous place there called the Hole in the Wall beach, where you can go to Niantic and you go to this place noted as Hole in the Wall. There's an actual hole in a wall under a train track. And I went there and I was inspired. I was going to pass out some cards at the boardwalk. There's a very long boardwalk along the seashore there, and pass out some cards about my books and my lectures, advertising them while I walk around and just pass them out to people. So I went down, and in that particular day I was inspired by God to talk to some people that I met. I passed out the cards. They were interested. They asked questions about my lectures or my books, and we had conversations. And then this particular day, I providentially by God met 3 couples during this day, where with all 3 couples we talked about the beauty of marriage, a good marriage, and what the secrets to a good marriage are, what the secrets, what the keys to having a great marriage are, and we shared our thoughts. It was wonderful. I was married 53 years, so I had a wonderful marriage. And so we agreed, and I told them about what I share in my book and what I share on my website about the secret, and they certainly agreed that that was the key. And so the key is to find or create a friend of God. That's the step to a good marriage. You find or you create a friend of God and you marry them. And these 3 couples agreed. Certainly that's what happened in their life. They had married friends of God, and that's why their family was so successful and their marriage was so successful. And we agreed we'd tell young people. I can't wait to tell people 18 years old, 18 to 25 about that, because it helps them to start dating people correctly, so they'll date the right people and then they'll wind up marrying the right people. And I love it when the young people realize this is true, because then they start dating the right people and they get off to a great start. I mean, why date the wrong people if you're trying to ultimately marry a friend of God? Now, creating a friend of God is very simple. All you do is, while you're dating them, when they say they're making decisions, they're going to buy a car, they're going to buy a house, they're going to change their job, you ask them if they have asked God what to do first. Did you ask God for wisdom first? And if you keep doing that, eventually they're going to see that that's what they should be doing. And that's what a friend of God is. A friend is someone who asks God what to do before they do it. They ask God to inspire them with wisdom, because God's the source of wisdom. And that's how you make a friend of God. Get someone to always keep asking God what to do, and then when they marry you, they'll be asking God what to do on their side of the marriage, and they'll be treating you properly. They'll be treating you as a friend of God would treat someone who is their spouse. So that's why that's the secret. So find or create and then marry a friend of God. If you didn't do that, then help your spouse now become a friend of God, and the same thing will happen. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.